So one of my very first converts his name was Hector, and I remember tracking into him. He'd never spoken to missionaries before, and he had just moved from California to live with his mom. And we knocked on his trailer, and he says he normally never opens the door. He usually looks to the people, and if it's someone he doesn't know, he doesn't answer the door. But he forgot to look at the people this morning. So he opens the door, and like, he's a very scary man at the beginning if you don't know him. So he opens the door a crack, and he stares at us, and he's just like, "What do you want?" And so we're like, "Well, we're the missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints," and we're speaking in Spanish. And he opens the door more and he goes, "Stop right there. Your Spanish sounds forced and it's not good." And my companion and I were just like looking at each other and like, I don't know. It's hard when you're learning a language and someone tells you that it sucks, because then you're just like, it determines you and you don't want to speak Spanish anymore. So he like totally scared us on that aspect, like, "Don't speak Spanish to me." And one time we said like "si se puede" to him, but apparently that's the Mexican motto that only the Mexicans can say. So he was like really criticizing our Spanish and everything we're saying. So we were really terrified of him. And we were like, "We'll just leave now." But he's a very easy person to talk to. So we're just chatting it up with him. We start talking about the Book of Mormon. He says, "That's okay. I'm reading another book right now." And we're like, "Well, you can read both of them at the same time. This one's a lot better than what you're reading." We had somehow asked him what he was reading, and it ended up being like 50 Shades of Grey. And we're like, "This one's a lot better. You should read the Book of Mormon." And just like the first couple weeks was rough with him, rough teaching him, because he wouldn't pray at all. He refused to pray. And it was hard to like keep a lesson with him. Like one time we showed up on, I think it was our second lesson, it was a Sunday. We show up and he's driving away, and so we like chased down his car because it wasn't that far. And we were like, "Where are you going? We have a lesson." He said he was going to the grocery store to buy limes or lemons. And we're like, "No, don't go. Stay here. It's better." And he's like, "No, it's okay. I'll be back in like 30 minutes. And we're like, "Okay." And then he asked us if we wanted to go with him to the store. And we're like, "Probably shouldn't. It's the Sabbath. We're going to keep it holy, So we keep teaching him. He finally prays. Like, that was a miracle that he prayed. I didn't get the whole respect thing sometimes with his prayers, because it was, not that it was new to him, but it was new to him at the same time. It's a different culture. It's a different religion. And so it was really fun teaching him, seeing him progress, seeing him really like just dive down deep into the gospel and to accept it. And he's a person that if he's going to do something, he's going to do it 100%. So like the first couple months or first month or two, he wouldn't even walk onto church property because he had not committed himself to do it. So he wouldn't come to church, so we tried to have lessons at church, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to your building." And we're like, "Come on, Hector, just walk into the building, just feel the Spirit." And he wouldn't do it. So we just kept teaching him outside on his porch because his mother wasn't always home. So we would teach him, and then finally he came to church, and we had a lesson outside of the church at the pavilion. And it was kind of like, it was one of those make it or break it lessons, because we'd been teaching him for a while, and we're like, "Hector, you have to do something. You have to choose to do something." And I remember at the end of the lesson, all I really remember is the prayer that he said. And he said, "Heavenly Father, if I don't see these two sister missionaries again, like, bless them for the rest of their lives." And it was such a great experience, such a great moment. And at the moment, we felt like we would never see him again. So we were really terrified because he was so close. But then he came to church, and after that, he never missed church again. Well, he probably did, but he kept going and coming, and we were so excited. And he was coming to our English class, and he was helping us teach English. And it was getting really far. And he was so close to accepting a date to be baptized. And then I got transferred. And I was so upset because he was so close. But I kept in contact with the sister missionaries that were still there, so they were keeping me updated on Hector. And he was even teaching Sunday school. Like, they had given him a calling to teach Sunday school, and he still wasn't baptized. He still wasn't a member, but he was teaching Sunday school to all the other non-members. And we were just like, "Come on, Hector, like, you want this, you can do it, you know how much it's going to bless your life." But apparently with the stipulation of being called as a Sunday school teacher, he has to be a member. So he's like, "Okay, I'll get baptized." And it was so great to go to his baptism and see him, because we found him in June, and he had just hurt his knee, so he couldn't go back to California because he was planning on moving back to California, but he hurt his knee playing soccer, so he's forced to stay in Washington, which is totally the Spirit saying, this is where you're going to get the gospel, so you got to stay here. So he got baptized August 30th, and we met him beginning of June. So it was like 3 months. It wasn't too long. But going to his baptism was so great. Like, I bawled. So I was so happy to see Hector get baptized, like finally make that choice, because it took him forever in the beginning just to even say a prayer. And now he was getting baptized and making a covenant with his Heavenly Father. And then a couple months later, I was called back to Maple Valley, back into his same ward. And I got to see him get the Melchizedek priesthood. And it was so neat to see, like, full circle. Like, he started not even wanting to, like, say a prayer or read the scriptures, to, like, having the Melchizedek priesthood, being able to give blessings. It was like the Spirit changes people's lives so intensely, and you don't even know how much it can change them from, like, meeting them in the beginning. Because Hector scared us out of our pants. It was so terrifying. And we didn't even want to talk to him half the time. But then he just, like, progressed, and it was so great. And, like, still to this day, I'm in contact with Hector all the time. Like, it's just trying to keep him, like, progressing, because we don't ever stop progressing. Our spiritual progression still goes.